Well, Indian authorities are being accused of a cover-up this morning after an initial report into last month's Air India crash, which claimed the lives of 260 people, focused on the actions of the pilots rather than a mechanical fault.
Now, a preliminary investigation has found the plane's fuel cut-off switches almost simultaneously went from run to cut-off, which starved the engines of fuel.
But relatives of the victims are now claiming that initial report is wrong and that it's a cover-up to protect the airline and the government.
Joining us now is former Qantas pilot Richard de Crespigny. Good morning to you, Richard.
Good to see you.
OK, so we always get an investigation released, you know, some findings in the first month. There will be another one down the track. But it seems that this has actually given rise to lots of conspiracy theories. Not enough was released.
Oh, I think that's right. Look, since a day after the incident, pilots have had thoughts about what happened and lots of conspiracy theories. So in these situations, the Australians and the American Transport Safety Bureaus generally release enough facts to shut down the rumours and innuendos. And this report at 30 days after the event has released Boeing and General Electric, the manufacturer of the engines. Really, they think that there's no recommendations for them, so they're off the hook. They haven't released the airline, which is Air India, and they certainly haven't released the pilots. Look, the fuel control switches, you turn them on at the start of the flight, you turn them off at the end, but you also turn them on and off if you have to restart an engine or if there's a fire. So you do need to move them in flight. But to have two turn off within a second of each other is remarkably, if it's a switch failure, is really remote. Look, I suspect there is a human error in this, but we just don't know. And the investigators could release the voice transcripts so we know what exactly was said and correlate it to what happened. They haven't done that. They've left a lot open.
Yeah.
So based on what you've seen then, and the accusations of a cover-up regarding a mechanical fault potentially, I mean, do you see that in your experience?
Look, if it was a cover-up and it was a mechanical fault, then we've had two switches that are faulty turning off within 1 second of each other after 10 years of this 787's operations. Highly, almost impossible. Look, I don't think they want to cover it up. They're just not used to exposing all the facts and shutting down these rumours.
Can I ask you, Richard, then, if you did cut the fuel off, taking off like we saw Air India, is this the result of that, potentially?
If you turned off the fuel switches, the engines would be running down within 1 second because you're turning off the main pumps. And it's dramatic, and it has to be because you have to stop fuel getting to the engine if there's a fire. The fuel switches were turned off, and then within 10 seconds they're both turned on. It suggests that there was some interaction somewhere in the cockpit, that the switches didn't just float up or float down.
Can I ask, what do the switches physically look like? The fact that you say that there's two, is it just a little thing that you could bump? Are they next door to each other? I mean, the fact that we haven't seen this over and over again...
They look like little mushrooms in the supermarket, button mushrooms, and you have to pull the switch out and then move it up or down, and then you'll release it.
It's a very deliberate
It won't move
exercise,
by itself by accident, and if one moved by accident, well, the second one probably would not.
Right.
Look, there shouldn't be books to hit the switches and knock them down. Look, these are all very improbable probabilities. So, again, it probably comes back to a human error, which doesn't mean it's intentional.
Yeah, when we did hear that the conversation, although they haven't released it exactly, that one pilot said, "Why did you switch them off?" and the other pilot said, I didn't. So is it possible we will never know?
Oh, I think the final report will come out. Now, China Eastern had an incident that probably had a terrible consequence in what we think happened. But the Chinese authorities, this is 3 years ago, in May, the Chinese said they'll probably never release the final report on what happened because of social implications. I think there will be a final report coming out. We will know. I just hope they release more facts in the meantime to shut down a whole lot of these rumours.
Because that does not make the airspace any safer with conspiracy theories, does it?
Just yes or no, have you ever heard of these buttons or these controls having a mechanical issue?
Yes, there was a report of these switches not having a lock to secure them.
Okay.
And that would mean the switch might fall down in turbulence and turn off. But to have two doing this and yet takeoff seem normal, this is very, very remote.
So intriguing. Thank you so much for coming in, Richard. Really appreciate your time.